Hey guys, the mods are going to continue today on the 2020 ZX-6R. Stick around and find out what I'm putting on this bike next. Alright, on today's show we are going to install a couple things. First, we have the Shogun frame sliders that look to be a fairly simple and straightforward installation, but these things never really work out exactly the way I think they're going to work out, so we'll see. Probably the more exciting installation today is going to be this slip-on that we got from Graves. So today, frame sliders, new slip-on exhaust, and we'll see just how good a slip-on can sound on a 2020 ZX-6R. Alright, to get started on the frame sliders, we're going to need the Shogun frame sliders themselves. We're going to absolutely need a torque wrench. You're going to need an extension, a 14mm bit, and also an 8mm hex end for putting in the new bolt. Optionally, you could probably get this done with a standard T-handled 8mm and a standard ratchet, but I really don't recommend that. You should torque these down to the specifications. Alright, so we are going to start off on the left side of the bike. I believe the torque rating on this is 32 pounds. So that came loose at less than 30 foot-pounds. That's a little scary. Alright, so that's the bolt that came out. Alright, so this is the left side slider. You'll notice it's got a much deeper cutout in it. It's also slightly longer. The bolt is slightly longer. Really just compensating for the slider at this point. This bolt and washer go into the slider. And then I'm going to follow it up with my extension and my hex driver. We are going to apply a little bit of blue Loctite on to the end of the threads. Socket back on. Alright, get the final touches on it here. There we go. Okay, now the right side is going to be a little trickier. It's the same kind of bolt that's on the other side, but it's in a different kind of housing. So you've really got a bolt that's inside of a bolt that's inside of a bolt. But this is so they can move the engine. They can make fine adjustments on the engine, like where it's placed left to right. So we really do not want to turn any of these threads below this top bolt right here. So I'm going to be watching very carefully as I unscrew this to make sure I do not cut anything loose other than the outside bolt. Let's get this out of here all the way. Alright, so you see how I'm actually spinning out of that bolt that's in a bolt. Alright, so now it's spinning on its own. You also notice on here, this one's cut out, right? So it goes over that castle nut arrangement right there. And it sits in a very particular place. That's what the cutout is for. Alright, so I'm going to throw this bolt in. We're going to go ahead and get this started by hand. Make sure you're not cross-threading it in there. My wrench is set to 32. There we go. 32. Okay, that was actually very easy to get done. These are, again, the Shogun frame sliders. Here is the right side. And again, that took, I don't know, 20 minutes, and that was even with recording it. I think that worked out pretty well. Very easy to do. They don't poke out too far on either side. So let's get to the exhaust. All right, guys, so we're gonna get to the installation of the Graves exhaust. Now, all that came in the package was literally the exhaust, this lone nut, and this little card that says go here and get the instructions, and but there are no instructions. So I don't think this is going to be that difficult to install anyway. I find it a little disheartening. This exhaust system has been out since 2019 and they still don't have PDF instructions out there for it. So to me, that's a little bit of a flaw. All right, first step is to get the seats off. That is going to expose the servo unit right here. So this whole unit is going to come out. I'll probably be pulling off all the orange parts here just so I can get at them easier, and then put the servo buddy in right in there. Got to release this cable up here so that I can get the bottom exhaust off. That little retainer comes off of there like that. Alright, so that's one cable, that's two. Alright, well, to make this a little easier, I'm going to go ahead and take the orange part of this fairing off. Take your time with this. So I'm just going to back off the adjustment screw here. That gives me a lot of slack up here. That allows those cables out. So I can go ahead and pull these down through the bike. There's the servo. This will just get tossed in the box with all the rest of the stuff that we're not keeping on the bike. There's that. Thing weighs a ton, by the way. Alright guys, we have the old exhaust is off. I've got all the panels off. I pulled the cables out from in here. Before I get too much further though, I'm going to install the servo buddy just in case I inadvertently turn the bike on. I don't want to throw any more codes, and there's no reason not to hook this up at this point since the old exhaust is off. So let's get to that. So here's the servo buddy, a lot smaller than the servo itself. So 2 cables to plug in. Alright, so that one's in. There you go. That's the whole thing. So servo buddy just gets tucked down in there. Put the boot over all of this. That's it. Now we've got a little extra space in here for whatever. Alright, next step is we got to get this pre-chamber off of the header pipe that's coming down. So I'm going to start by removing this 4mm bolt right here. And that just leaves this loose so I can get in and get at these 2 6mm hex head bolts. I recommend using a long extension here and a socket if you have one, because you need a lot of leverage. These are very tight bolts. I've already kind of loosened them up, so once you get them going, you can just pull them off by hand. Now remember to hold on to these. I think this one here is going to be reused. So, all right, so that's all that holds that on there. So I'm going to loosen this collar up underneath. I'm going to get this pretty loose so that collar is super loose. From my understanding and watching a number of videos, the hardest part of this whole thing. So we're going to try and get it out of here without damaging everything. Hey, actually came out pretty easy. There's the pre-chamber. That saves a lot of weight right there. Between these 2 pieces right here, probably, I don't know, 20 pounds. At least 15. Okay, so all we have left is to fit this in, tighten the clamp, and run that bolt through and secure this on the other end of it. Start sliding it in. Alright, so I've got that slid through. So I'm going to throw this bolt through. Take this nut on the other end and just hand tighten it just so the exhaust doesn't move around too much. Next thing we're going to have to do is make sure this collar is in the notch. Get that pretty tight. All right, to finish this up, we got to tighten up this bolt right here, which we have a 14 millimeter box end that I'm going to throw on the nut in the back here. And then I'm going to ratchet it. Now, the exhaust is installed. The only thing we have to finish up is just button up the plastics. Come back when I have that done.
That sounds awesome.
Okay guys, well this project is wrapping up. We have both the new frame sliders from Shogun installed, which should help protect the bike in a spill. And the more important of the two, well maybe not the most important, but the coolest of the two, the new Graves exhaust is looking amazing on here. It sounds amazing. My wife really likes the new sound and the new look. Get rid of all this exhaust apparatus way back here. So hopefully you got something out of that. I would make a couple comments. The Graves exhaust, as nice as it is, as great as it sounds, I'm just beyond confused why they do not have instructions on their website specifically for the 636. There's no instructions included in the box. They just literally give you the exhaust, one nut, which you just kind of have to figure out where it goes. So if you don't know what's going on, I think that you would struggle with this. Also, I guess I should mention the servo buddy that we installed worked like a champ. Bike started up with no check engine lights and worked great. Saves a lot of space in the back. So anyway, hopefully you got something out of this video, and if you did, give us a like and consider subscribing to the channel and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out on any further content. So as always guys, thanks for watching.